tourism, systems thinking, and leadership roles. He has a history of successfully delivering results in progressively complex environments such as Intel Corporation, NASA, and has earned his BS in Aerospace Engineering and MS in Mechanical Engineering from the University of Central Florida, as well as a PhD in Mechanical Engineering from Texas A&M, a law school. Corey currently works for Intel as an integration lead for supercomputing applications and worked for NASA's Space Shuttle program for 7 years in Texas. Additionally, Corey coordinates Intel's MAPS, known as Mentoring and Planning Services, skills-based volunteering efforts for the state of Oregon. In this role, he has overseen applications of over $100,000 of free professional services to nonprofits, education, and government entities over the last 2 years. Corey is also involved in other nonprofit organizations and volunteer efforts such as the Urban League of Portland-Beaverton Police Activities League, iUrban Team, coaching youth in the Tualatin Valley Youth Football League, and serving as an officer for the National Society of Black Engineers Portland Professional Chapter, among other contributions. Let's give it up for Corey Frazier.
Thank you, Connie, for that introduction. I'm going to see if I can set my water here somewhere. Hopefully, next to the electronics is not bad. As a result of catastrophic. Hello, everybody. There is a lot more people than when I sat down. First, again, hello, my name is Corey Frazier. I'm very happy to be here this morning. Just to let you all know, I'm going to ask some questions periodically. And for you youth in the audience, if I happen to ask a question and no one raises hands or says anything, it's going to get a little awkward. So please be a good volunteer, or I'll have to pick on somebody, and then you'll probably feel like, oh, I'm on the spot. So let's try and make it a little easier for you and me, and let's have a good time. So, yeah, creating a STEAM legacy. It's a very large theme. When I first got brought the title, it was a little daunting at first. And I had to figure out, how do I relate this to students, to parents, to educators, to industry professionals or other community members who may be in the room. And I just started flowing. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about, one, what it takes to pursue a STEAM field. Two, what are some of the challenges that you all as students are facing or will be facing as you get older? Three, parent advocacy. So parents, you guys are very much so involved in this presentation, so don't tune out. And then finally, some calls to action. And then hopefully somewhere along the way I can share my story a bit. But before I share my story, I want to share another story. And this is the story of someone that is in Florida. A friend of mine told me this story. It's about this young lady who was stricken with spina bifida, which is a spinal condition, and actually, unfortunately, it rendered her wheelchair bound. And the thing is that she wanted to be a medical assistant. She wanted to be actively engaged in helping people in the medical profession. The challenge, though, is that she's in a wheelchair, so that's where her environment constantly reinforced her. Oh, you're in a wheelchair. How can you possibly take care of other people? How can you help other people? You need someone to help take care of yourself, let alone take care of another person. But she continued, her studies in school, and just continued to take a lot of this negative input. Her mother, her friends, her peers, constantly reinforcing things to her. In fact, she was working on her degree, and someone offered her a position administratively in the office, and she turned it down because it was not what she wanted. Those people saw her passion for the medical industry, but did not believe in her capability to actually become a medical professional. Eventually, someone just flat out meanly asked her the question: if someone passed out from allergic or anaphylactic shock, what would you do? How would you possibly help that person? She defiantly answered, I would grab my EpiPen, that's a device that delivers adrenaline, that's that stuff. You know, when you guys get really excited and you feel like, oh man, I can do anything, you can lift a car or run really fast, that's adrenaline, it's a chemical within your body. But she said she would grab her EpiPen, push herself out of the wheelchair, fall to the ground, crawl over to that person, and stab them with the EpiPen. That lady is now a medical assistant in Florida. And what I want to emphasize to you all, particularly to you all, the youth, the young people in the audience, is that in order to pursue a STEAM career, you have to be determined. People are going to believe in your passion. Everyone's going to see your passion. But not everyone's always going to reinforce your capability or their belief in your capability. Parents, you all need to reinforce this sense of stick-to-itiveness. Everybody say that, stick-to-itiveness.
Stick-to-itiveness.
And in case you're wondering what that big word is, it's stick to it, so stick to it, itiveness. And what we really want to emphasize to our youth is that STEAM pursuits are not about smarts. They never are, trust me. Despite what you heard in that bio, I'm not that smart. I'm just really persistent. And that's what it takes to pursue a STEAM career. And if you have that persistence, you can solve problems. You can recognize the problems. You can go make the world a better place. And that's the essence of STEAM. Go make the world a better place. Create that legacy. So throughout today's speech, you're going to hear some key words: legacy, environment, diversity. But you're going to hear these things over and over again because they are the key themes of what it means to pursue a STEAM career and also create that legacy. And also reinforce the fact that we really do need to increase the diversity of our STEAM professionals. So having said that, what are some of the benefits of STEAM? Well, first thing is that STEAM people, this is just a characteristic of STEAM people, they relate things. How many of you out there feel as though you relate things very well? You see something over here, and you wonder how that's connected over there. How many of you are like that? I am. I'm always connecting things. That's called being overly analytical as I'm told. I think it's a good thing. But STEAM people relate things in their world and other people's worlds. It's that ability to relate things that enables them to actually go out there and solve the world's problems. Basically, being a STEAM person, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, along with the applied arts, I have to clarify that already, a STEAM person is able to go out there and make the world a better place because they can recognize the challenges that are out there. And for me, some of the things that motivated me to actually pursue STEAM, these may be things that motivate you, are one, significance. I really wanted to be significant. I wanted to make the world a cooler place. There you go again with the impact. We're going to hear impact over and over again. And then the third one was the ability to enjoy the perks of STEAM, which are decent salary, the ability to have influence over where technology is going, and the ability to lead teams of people on big deals that are going to change the world. And kind of thinking a bit on that whole salary thing, if you guys have not had the chance, there is a table over there that has a piece of paper or two or three and some pens, kind of free stuff, swag. But on that paper, it actually highlights some of the starting salaries for people in engineering fields. And the reason I want to point this out is because if earning a decent paycheck, and I will definitely dissuade you from just wanting to earn a decent paycheck in STEAM. But if there are other things, if earning a decent paycheck is one of the things you want to do, engineering is a pretty good option. On this piece of paper, you have some starting salaries. Petroleum engineers are apparently getting all that good oil money, which I stayed in Texas and got. That's right, that's a lot of money. In fact, this data is a little bit out of date, so they're making even more money now. But also, STEAM professionals are motivated by their passions. And I myself had a lot of passions. How many of you, just to take a quick survey, how many of you guys are already considering the STEAM field? How many? Okay, we got one. I see one, two, three. Come on, get them nice and high so I can actually tell. Okay, here we go. got about 5. All right. Throw it out real quick. What are you considering doing? What field are you considering going?
Engineering.
Okay. Engineering, good. We had another hand. She's hiding from me. You know, she raised her hand. She's going to pretend she's writing. Engineering as well, okay. Is Dr. Clinton influencing you guys on engineering? Okay. But yeah, you know, engineering is a great field to go into. I myself was motivated to go into STEAM because I had a huge interest in cartoons, comic books, and video games. And I know people are like, really, that's kind of lazy and wasteful activity, but honestly, no. You know, everything in STEAM fields is really the birth of somebody's dream or some team of people's dreams. James Allen said in his book that dreamers are the saviors of the world. And it's very applicable in STEAM fields. To be in a STEAM field, you have to have a vision somewhere. So you can go out there and create, right? So for me, dreaming was a big deal. And in fact, on this same sheet of paper, if you flip it over, it talks about some of the things that have been invented as a result of engineers and their dreams and their pursuits. So if you're a dreamer, that's a good thing. Don't let anyone ever tell you that being a dreamer is a bad thing. But the thing is that STEAM does a lot more than just give you a job or a career. STEAM also gives you the ability to enhance your passions. And a couple examples of that are, for me, weightlifting. I used to love weightlifting. It used to be the key word. It's a bit more rotund these days. But the thing about weightlifting is that you have to have an understanding of anatomy. You have to have a sense of kinesiology, which is the study of human motion, the body's motion. Kinesiology kind of derives from the word kinetic, which means movement. Another thing is comic books. I wanted to be a comic book artist, but in order to draw really good people, you have to have an understanding of anatomy. You have to have a basic understanding of physics, because I'm not sure if you've read a comic book lately, but superpowers are not like fly and invulnerable anymore. They're manipulating the 4 forces of matter and stuff these days. Another thing is cooking. I love cooking. I love eating too. But the thing about cooking that's awesome is that there are thermodynamic changes that happen when you cook food. You know, chemical changes that happen to the meat itself. How it goes from, for example, a piece of beef, how it goes from being a red piece of meat and it changes into that brown color and the skin texture changes. That's called the Maillard effect. But you learn these things because you have an understanding of STEAM. So STEAM not only just provides you with a career field, it broadens your knowledge. It enhances your passions. It helps you discover new passions that you didn't have before. Basically, STEAM, as I alluded to earlier, is more than just a decent paycheck. So speaking of decent paychecks, my first job. So I got my Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering, and the very first thing I got to do was a career that had a huge impact and came from a very long legacy, and that was working with the Space Shuttle program, the NASA Space Shuttle program, which was an awesome experience. But the thing that was really, really cool about working with the Space Shuttle program was the sense of legacy left behind. You really felt that you were building on other people's scientific advancement. You were working with other teams of individuals. And the first job I had there was something called abort region determination. What the heck is that? Other than the fact it's a really big word. And I'm going to use the word, the acronym ARD, because I don't want to keep saying abort region determination over and over again. But what ARD was is that if you imagine my hand is the space shuttle, this is a very, very badly cracked wing here on my pinky and my thumb. But the space shuttle, when it goes up, we imagine that it just goes up when it launches, right? That's what we think of it as. But really, it's going up and it's going across the world. So when it's going across the world, it's leaving the Florida coast, it's going across the Atlantic Ocean, crossing countries, possibly trying not to drop stuff on India and Australia and everything else. We have to make sure that that shuttle, if it experiences a failure, such as an engine goes out, or 2 engines go out, or all 3 go out, it heaven forbid, what do we do, right? Where do we go? How do we land? How do we protect the crew? How does the crew survive? How do we protect the mission? Well, that's what abort region determination, or ARD, was. It was us determining, can we land in Spain? It was us determining, can it turn back around if it's not too far away from the Florida coast and land at the Kennedy Space Center? It was us determining, can we abort to orbit, fly once around the world, and then come back in like it normally would for a typical or normal deorbiter entry. And the thing is, when you are on console, you know, the people who are sitting in mission control with the headsets and they're saying, Houston, we are wrong, all this other stuff, those guys don't have time to bust out a calculator to figure out whether or not we can abort one place or abort another. They had to make that call like that. And my job was to take all of that data and make a simple display such that that person sitting on console could say, no, we cannot come back to Kennedy Space Center. Yes, we can abort to Spain. That's what my job was. So that was really cool, because that is the kind of job that saves lives. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately, we never had to use my job because we didn't abort. But one thing I found, and a lot of you all, when you pursue STEAM fields, will find out, is that you want to do something else. You have all these talents, all these skills. You start seeing, again, connecting the dots, branching things from one place to the next, and you want to go to the next spot, right? And so I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to just be in the abort world anymore. So what I did was, I pursued being a mission engineer, which was a great job because it was what we call cross-functional, or rather, different people who are different kinds of engineers, different kinds of analysts, different kinds of scientists, working together to put together one shuttle trajectory, or one set of mission data. The thing is, you have to get people to work together, because that's really how things are done in STEAM fields, right? It's not really the work of one person. There's usually not an Albert Einstein, and even Albert Einstein didn't do everything himself. It's a team of people who advance science, a team of people who advance technology. So that was a very cool job. When I got my PhD, though, I did not think I'd be applying it to supercomputers. And so I came to Intel after a couple of stints in other areas. I got to work on supercomputers, and man, let me tell you, the value of those things is awesome. They're calculating in seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, what it would take any one of us to do in thousands of years, which is kind of daunting because not a whole lot of us are living for thousands of years, and then probably not enough people to really make that go by faster. So I'm very grateful that I can push a button sometimes to let the computer handle that while I go enjoy the rest of my life. But supercomputers also enable us to do big things, and they have a great impact. And those impacts are, one, weather simulation, weather modeling. By modeling the weather, we can tell where's that hurricane going to get? Can we find out its strength? Can we find out its trajectory? What's it going to do when it goes inland? Can we evacuate the people out of that town before it makes landfall based on that prediction? Cures for diseases. Supercomputers are running tons and tons of calculations of different dosages, of different medications on different diseases in different stages, instead of us having to test on subjects all the time. Finally, and this is for better or for worse, supercomputers are also in control of our financial market. They're the ones predicting stock performance. So when people are buying and selling and trading, again, it's for better or for worse, whatever it means for us. Supercomputers are in control of that data and its processing. Now, students, I've talked a lot about STEM and STEAM and the perks and what I can do and how awesome my job is, but the thing I do want to address to give some dignity to it, to honor it, is that you guys do have some challenges, and that's part of the reason why there's the Xplosion event, to encourage you, to make sure you're exposed, because we want to make sure that you don't fall to the challenges that are present in your guys' lives. And what are some of those challenges? Well, we think first, identity is one, right? According to Eastern Oregon University, 35% of all students in Oregon are minorities. but 90% are of non-diverse backgrounds. And it is well known for any one of us who are grown up that those in authority positions greatly influence your life. So that's actually a big deal. This is actually an even bigger deal when you look nationally and realize that 10% of all scientists and engineers are minorities. Only 10. And 1 out of 10 of those is a woman. So you can see where there's a bit of an identity issue. You know, an opportunity, there's an opportunity for our youth, you guys as students, to actually see people who look like you, or understand your background, where you're coming from, the challenges that you have, and be able to encourage you in STEAM fields. Kind of staying on the identity front, who all knows what it is that we celebrate in February? What important awareness? Valentine's Day is important. That's true. Do not forget that.
There you go.
It is Black History Month, yes. But did you also know that February is National Engineering Month? So, students, when you get the chance and you go back to school, encourage your teachers to find a way to mix Black History Month with National Engineering Month, to encourage you all to see people of engineering or scientific backgrounds. Another challenge that you guys face is that STEAM is traditionally stuff on the board, right? It's, equations, concepts, things that are written up there, and work you hate to do when you go home, and you have to take it home and do your homework. But it's not treated as though it's something that you actively want to do or will be a part of your life. And that's something as educators, parents, industry professionals like myself, we need to change for you all. We need to take that stuff from it being mess on the board and turn it into something that is tangible and real. What are you going to do with that mess on the board? Why does it really matter? Because right now, it doesn't seem like it matters, or at least there's a huge gap between what it is that you see out there and what it becomes. How does that mess on the board become your phone? How does that mess on the board become the car you drive, or the car you guys want to drive someday, or the house you want to live in, or the new technology you want to invest in, or the next space vehicle? How does that happen? So we need to do a better job of bringing that to you. Parents and educators. There's a quote from the Center, if I can find it. It's a quote from the Center of Public Education, and it's in regards to parenting, or rather parent awareness. And it says, most parents do not know much about the educational programs in their children's school or what teachers require of them. Effective parent involvement comes when a true partnership exists between schools and families. Creating that partnership, especially around academics, is what works for student achievement. And the reason I brought that quote up is because you've heard me talk a little bit about environment and the challenges that the students have. But the truth is that the environment is the chemical stuff that breeds success for our students. You, the parents, you, the educators out there, you all are the catalysts that make it happen. If you guys drive STEAM advocacy, if you all are the ones who are reinforcing the importance of STEAM, the results are long-lasting, far longer than what a student's going to get out of a book, or videos, or any other type of media that we expose them to. A really good example of that is my dad. In the intro, you heard that he was in the Air Force, on an Air Force brat. But my dad really drove home my interest in STEAM. We were stationed in England at Milton Hall Royal Air Force Base. And Milton Hall was one of the staging areas for one of the most awesome planes in human history called the SR-71 Blackbird. If you get a chance, Evergreen Aerospace Museum in McMinnville actually has one, so you should go see it. This plane was awesome. It was a 1960 spy plane, did most of its missions during the 80s and the 90s, and it flew so fast that it was 7 inches longer when it landed as a result of how hot it got. Its skin was made from a titanium alloy to compensate for that heat. You know? It was so fast that supposedly it didn't have bullets because it would typically outrun the bullets. So they didn't give it those type of armaments. The SR-71 Blackbird and the stories I got from my dad really reinforced steam to me. In addition, my dad was stationed on the coast of Florida during the early shuttle launches. So he would take me to see shuttle launches. But I don't really remember any of it. The reason I was so driven towards the space shuttle program is because he constantly kept air and space and the NASA lore in my life. I have a poster that has NASA stuff on it and mission decals and patches, and it stayed over my bed for a good 15, 20 years until I completely left the house, left college and everything. But I just want to emphasize that that's the role that my father played in my life when it came to STEAM advocacy. And if you parents are playing that deep of a role, really reinforcing things to your students, to your children, you'll have that long-lasting impact as well. So what I want to do next is talk a little bit about calls to action. And really, it's kind of get to the point of, okay, Corey, you talked about challenges that our kids have, and what do the students need to do? You talked a little bit about parent advocacy and the role it plays. What do parents need to do to help drive STEAM and academic achievement even further? And so we're going to touch a little bit on that in a second. But I want to re-emphasize some things that we've already heard about diversity and why diversity in STEAM is very important. 3 key reasons. First, diversity is critical to excellence. We typically associate the achievements in STEAM and science and technology with the achievements or accomplishments of an individual person. But that is not necessarily the important factor. The diversity of the problem solvers, more women, more people of color, etc. The diversity of the problem solvers is far more important than the accomplishments or the aptitude of one single person. So we have to be sure that we have diversity in STEAM such that we have a diversity of problem solvers. 2, we want to make sure that we don't miss talent in STEAM, diverse talent, in STEAM, because that represents a loss of people who can actually solve problems. And what I mean by that is, if you have someone who is a diverse person, a person of color, or a woman, who does not go into STEAM or is dissuaded from STEAM, even though that's their aptitude, that's their talent, that's their skill, not only does that person wind up in a field in which they may be unfulfilled, we also miss the opportunity to have that person be part of the team of people who are going to solve the world's problems. So we miss out not only on one account, but on 2 accounts. And the third one, and this one may be most critical, is that the U.S. can't keep its technological, scientific, economic advantage without diverse people in STEAM. We have a situation here where most people being born in this world right now are of non-white, non-male origin, right? They're coming in people of color, women who are being born. If we don't have people in from diverse backgrounds, we're missing out on, I'm going to throw out a number for you guys to be able to visualize it, but 75% of the talent pool. So we've got to make sure that we have diversity in STEAM because the U.S. and our position in the world depends upon it. Students, calls to action. What can you guys do, right? All right. First, you guys live in a time of unparalleled opportunity. Despite the way things may seem sometimes in the media, there is no better time in human history than now. If you guys want to learn something, you can easily go learn it. YouTube it. I'm serious. YouTube has pretty much everything you could ever want to learn about. You have a favorite car, you can learn how that car is put together, how it's manufactured. Who the engineers were who put it together, there's probably a video on it. Now, for better or worse, YouTube has a bunch of cat videos, movie trailers, and don't look at those. But look at the other things, the things that are going to enrich who you are scientifically, as well as from an education general perspective. Another thing is mentoring. Now, earlier I did mention that there was a lack of diverse engineering and science professionals But the truth is, there's never been more examples of who you want to be. More people of color, more women, more people with diverse backgrounds in general, spanning not only gender or race, but also creed, religion, whatever other background you can associate with. There's never been more people that you can associate with than now. Find those people. Get guidance from them. Ask them, where should I go next? Or ask them, what does it take to be in the STEAM field? I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you. Believe it or not, people who are professionals are happy to share their knowledge with you all. So feel free to go and ask someone who is in the STEAM field what it is that I need to do to pursue that career. Last but not least, join an organization. Have extracurricular activities that are STEAM-oriented. There are multiple groups here today, Iron Team, Brotherman Tech, Girls Inc. Go to one of these organizations. Find out how to get involved. Find out when they do events. What is it that I can do to participate? You know, go bug your parents to take you here, take you there. Your parents won't begrudgingly do it. I assure you they will. But you know, go out to organizations, find out who is there, and then go participate. Now, the kids got kind of light. The parents get a little bit harder. And the reason for that is because, again, I said the parents are the catalysts. You guys are the ones who are going to make this happen. Parents, first, you guys have got to reinforce academic excellence to our students. And I know that you guys are like, good, or you want kids to make good grades. Yeah, of course. But the reason I reinforce this is because diverse students traditionally start off behind the pack. So there is no ground to be lost when it comes to academic performance and academic excellence. I'm going to say something that's probably a little duh-ish, but hopefully it still drives the point home. A C is not passing, it's surviving. A C is surviving, a D is dying, and an F is death. That's how you have to look at it. It's a slippery slope to failure when you start looking to survive. The expression I've heard is that you don't want something that's good enough, because good enough seldom is. It's especially important for our diverse students pursuing STEAM fields, especially, that they never settle for good enough. Because it's easy to fall out of STEAM once that becomes your benchmark. Parents, be actively engaged in what your children are doing. My mom, Val Frazier, would often be in my classroom come parent sit-in day. Come that day, I can't remember the exact name of it, but come that day, she'd be in my physics and calculus classes with question marks over her head. But she'd be present. Really just to check in on me and see how things were going. She was saying, doing things that they shouldn't do, and then I would look at her and say, you knew my mom was coming to school today because parent sit-in day. You know, hey, now she's going to tell your parents what you're doing in between classes. But the thing is, my mom was on a first-name basis with everybody, with the other parents, the admins, the teachers, football coaches, guidance counselors. She knew them all. In fact, when I went to college, she would still call me up and say, oh, you know, Miss Warren, my daughter's in blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't even care anymore. I graduated from school. Why are you talking about this stuff? But she stayed in contact. She was heavily present in my life. And truth be told, I was a fairly non-challenge-oriented person. And by that I mean I did not have a lot of challenges against me that a lot of other youth do have. And if my mom was that active in my life, imagine how much more dedicated a parent who has a student who has challenges, whether it be at home, whether it be in the school, whether it be somewhere else, external to both locations. Imagine how dedicated that parent has to be in order to make sure that their student really understands academic performance and excellence and wants to pursue a STEAM field is encouraged to do so. Finally, community members who are here today and industry professionals such as myself, we also have a call to action. We need to continue to volunteer. Get out in front of these students. Get out in front of these kids and let them know what it is that it takes to pursue a STEAM career. Often, what they see on the board and what goes on behind the gates of Intel is there's just a huge gap there. It's a black box. No one knows. We need to get out there and share our story. If you were bad at math, truth be told, I was not that good at math once I got to college. In high school, I was awesome. I got to college, I started to hate math. But the thing is, if you didn't do so well in math and you still chose a STEAM career, you're still being successful, you need to go out and share that story. Go out and let these kids know that STEAM is not, again, about how smart you are. It's about how determined and persistent you are to pursue it. How much you have a passion to make the world a better place or have an impact. That's what STEAM is all about. We need to continue to open our doors, hold events where students can come into places like, say, Intel, and understand how do you take a board, and do testing, and you take a product from its initial concept all the way to a finished thing that somebody's going to use. Expose these kids to these various things, because that's what it's going to take to bridge the gap and enable them to want to pursue STEAM. So, I promise you guys, this is probably the last time we're going to pick on you guys for a question. Intel did a survey. And in that survey, they asked you all, students, people your age, they said, what is the #1 word that you associate with engineering? Who wants to guess? Give me some guesses. #1 word. Hard. What's some other words? Say again? Creativity.
Boring.
Boring. Video gaming. Another one. Math. Computers. Say again? Faith, very much so needed if you want to pursue a STEAM career. The #1 word was difficult, so hard/difficult. Boring is definitely an aspect of that because that certainly translates a little bit into the difficulty. But yeah, it's difficult. And the thing is that, I don't want to lie to you guys, STEAM is challenging at times. Anything in life worth pursuing is. But the thing is, parents, educators, industry professionals, it's our responsibility to emphasize that while STEAM is difficult, that it is something that they can do. We need to emphasize they can do this. Students, you guys can do this. It's actually not that bad. It sounds bad, but it's not. And then there's a good payoff at the end once you graduate and go work in other fields. The thing I want to emphasize to you guys is that for all of you out there who are students and are considering a STEAM field, if you do pursue the STEAM field, you will truly be trailblazers. If you pursue a STEAM field, you'll be increasing the diversity of people of color, women, which means there's more clever ideas, more challenges that we're recognizing, and thus more challenges that we're actually solving, which means we're making the world a much better place. Really quickly, and I'll end on this note, there was a quote or a statistic from the National Science Board, and it said, while 4% of the nation's workforce are scientists and engineers, this group is disproportionately responsible for creating jobs for the other 96%. Those of you young people in the audience who are considering a STEAM field, those of you who are educators who are reinforcing to these young people, parents reinforcing to these young people to pursue a STEAM career, or at least explore the option. If you do, you all who are sitting in seats right now, who are the opportunity creators for other kids in the future who will be in your position deciding what it is that they want to do with the rest of their lives, because you all gave them the opportunity and the freedom to explore that option. Thank you.